Richard Mille and Tissot, they couldn't be further apart, or could they? Welcome back to Horological. Back in 2023 I was working at the UCI Cycling World Championships in Glasgow. As a lifelong cycling fan, it was surreal being right there on the roadside as part of the action, the biggest cycling event Scotland has ever hosted. It was wet, loud and electric, and even though I was working, I couldn't help but get swept up in the atmosphere. Tissot was the official timekeeper of the championships, their clocks timing every finish and their logos everywhere you looked. The official prize watch was the Tissot T-Race Cycling UCI 2023 Special Edition, a 45mm black PVD coated quartz chronograph with a white strap decorated with the UCI rainbow bands. It was the watch that every new world champion would be handed on the podium. I had at the time reflected on who would soon be the owner of this watch. Here's a picture of me in the television getting soaking wet in the Glasgow rain as a member of the Dutch national team goes by, providing shelter for Mathieu van der Poel in the early laps of the city circuit. During one of my breaks, cold, soaked and looking for shelter, I ducked into the Tissot hospitality tent. The staff were brilliant, friendly, welcoming. They even handed me a cup of coffee as I warmed up from the cold. They let me take a closer look at a few of the watches that were there, including that exact UCI Special Edition winner's watch. It was a quiet 5-minute moment out of the rain that really stuck with me, and as it turned out, it connected me to what would become one of the most dramatic finishes of the entire World Championships. Later that day I was standing just down for the corner of Bell Street when Mathieu van der Poel came flying through the city circuit. On the wet cobbles he suddenly slipped and went down hard. The crowd gasped, but he was straight back onto his bike within seconds. He ripped the broken boa dial clean off his shoe and started hammering again, laying down what must have been a 500 angry watts through those final laps of that circuit. He didn't just recover, he absolutely smashed it, powering to one of the most memorable World Championship victories in years, winning by an incredible 1 minute 37 seconds over second placed Wout van Aert. And I couldn't help but think earlier that same day, I'd actually held his prize watch in my hand. The order of finish that day was Mathieu van der Poel in first place, a Richard Mille wearer, Wout van Aert in second place, a Rolex Daytona wearer, and Tadej Pogačar in third place, a Richard Mille wearer again. Quite literally top tier watches at the finish line that day. The whole experience that day made me appreciate Tissot even more. A few weeks later, I bought a pair of PRX quartz watches, one 40mm for me and one 35mm for my partner, both in that stunning mint green Reed Tiffany blue, but we can't call it that, dial. This top was the colour chosen for the UCI World Championships colourway that year, and that watch dial, it echoes that colourway perfectly. They're crisp, modern, and honestly punch above their price point, but more than that, they remind me of that week in Glasgow, of rain, of bikes, of coffee, and a brand that had made time for a cold, dishevelled me on arguably the biggest event of the whole championships. I intentionally stayed away from the Powermatic 80 versions of the PRX, mainly because that particular movement inside the modern PRX isn't your traditional ETA 2824 variant. It's been modified with an 80-hour power reserve and a high-tech synthetic Reed plastic with proprietary name escapement, made from lightweight anti-magnetic materials instead of metal. That progress comes at a cost. This newer version is laser regulated at factory, similar to the System 51 movements in the Blancpain Swatch collaboration watches, and it lacks a traditional regulator arm. It means that fine-tuning the accuracy, it isn't as simple as a watchmaker turning a screw. It's a sealed for stability, possibly profitability approach, locked by design and basically disposable, not something you would expect from a mechanical watch movement. It is worth noting that the COSC certified PRX carbon variant has a traditional regulator system, but it is expensive in comparison. course, among marquee road professionals themselves, another watch brand name dominates: Richard Mille, Matthew van der Poel, Tadej Pogacar, Mark Cavendish. All of them, they are supplied them, wear Richard Mille watches. They are a headline sponsor of Team UAE, and they have had massive success in recent years in the pro peloton. These are ultralight, shock-resistant pieces of mechanical art, carbon, titanium and precision engineering, worth more than an entire fleet of carbon pro bicycles. It's performance and passion fused together. Tissot represents timing and heritage. This is the watch company that keeps the race moving and the timing accurate, and it's no easy task with the amount of bikes in the pro peloton, all requiring an individual transponder and extremely high polling rates for timing accuracy and split decision resolution at the finish line. Some cycle races are so close that even the experts sometimes struggle to decide who crossed the line first. Tissot upholds those high standards that the sport demands, and in conjunction with high frame rate cameras and highly accurate timing zones and gates, integrity is maintained by the timing partner at all times. Richard Mille represents innovation and prestige, the watch brand that celebrates victory. But what really sets Richard Mille apart isn't just the 6 and 7 figure price tags or the skeletonized movements that they often use, it's the philosophy behind every partnership. This is a brand that doesn't chase celebrity, it chases performance. From Formula One to tennis courts, from the Tour de France to the Olympic track, Richard Mille's name appears in the lists of people who quite literally live on the edge. Rafa Nadal's RM2704 was built to survive a 10G impact. Charles Leclerc's RM6702, it weighs in at just 32 grams. That's including the strap. Even sprinter Johan Blake wore his neon green RM5901 in competition, a watch light enough not to slow him down by even a tenth of a second. That's the essence of Richard Mille's philosophy right there. Watches as micro-engineering projects, not jewellery. They test materials borrowed from aerospace and Formula One, titanium, carbon TPT, graphene composites and nanotubes. Then they apply them to a world where every single gram and every vibration counts. It's extreme horology, where cost is secondary to innovation and the wearer becomes part of the system and part of the experiment. Every single sponsorship, every collaboration is chosen to mirror that idea of controlled risk. These are not safe ambassadors, they're athletes who push limits, they break bones and they rewrite world records. In that sense, Richard Mille doesn't just sponsor sport, it actually embodies it. The brand sells the idea that time itself can be conquered, and that the watch on your wrist is a declaration of that victory. Because for Richard Mille, luxury, it isn't about comfort or tradition, it's about performance under pressure, the meeting point of art, physics and adrenaline. For me, that week at the 2023 UCI World Championships, it summed up why I love watches and why I love cycling. They both capture moments that matter, and sometimes you only realise afterwards just how special those moments actually were. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love my Panerai Carbotech deep dive linked on screen. And remember, collecting watches isn't logical, but it is horological.